Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video with your favourite YouTube host, Chapter Master Macca, Lord of the fucking Salt. Alright, Horus Heresy Age of Darkness just got an FAQ/errata, and there's some pretty spicy stuff in here, so let's go through it today. Now, this is going to be mostly about the errata, but also there'll be a quick little channel update right at the very end for everyone. So I'm going to skip right ahead down to page 13 because pretty much all the stuff that was in the errata already is from previous editions of the errata. Clarifications, that sort of thing. Alright, Magnus the Red. He has been significantly changed. There is a points drop from the 500 odd points that he was down to 495. The reason for this is that he lost his ability to cast the Mind Wrath, essentially. And you know what? I'm totally okay with this, because my basis with Magnus from the get-go was, way back when we were predicting how his rules would work, I said, look, I don't care if he costs 700 points, 800 points, as long as he's true to the books. You know, and I feel that, yes, the Mind Wrath and that sort of thing is true to the books, but in the state he was in on release, it was not good enough. And my solution at the time was, hey, if you're going to use it, make that Mind Wrath a sort of one-use only thing. And what Forge World has done is they've basically made it an upgrade. So much like how Lorgar has the Lorgar Transfigured, where you can make him into a Mastery Level 3 Psyker, instead of being a sort of repressed Psyker, well, same thing with Magnus. You can either run him as a standard Magnus, quote-unquote, who's 495 points, which is up there. That's sort of your Ferrus Manus, your, I think Korax is that sort of points, Leman Russ is that sort of points. So that's your really expensive Primarchs that just below Horus cost Primarchs. Now, you can run him as that. And what you get is a stock Primarch who's pretty good across the board, you know. Weapon skill 7, it's not the highest, but it's still solid. Ballistic skill 5, not the highest, still solid. Strength 7, now that is rather high. I think 7 is the strongest Primarch strength. The toughness 6, the wound 6, initiative 6, all standard Primarch sort of traits. Low attacks at 4, but it's Magnus, he's going to be casting Psychic Shenanigans, so I wouldn't really worry about the 4 attacks. Most people run Bio Magnus, which is Biomancy Enhanced Magnus, and it is fucking broken as you'd expect. They still haven't fixed that. Can I take this opportunity just to sidetrack myself, guys? When Forge World released the Horus Heresy rulebook, they made some amendments to the Psychic phase. Specifically, they changed invisibility. And I was a bit annoyed by this, because you had the entire Psychic phase there to play with and change and make your own, release your own Forge World Psychic cards for that sort of thing, and you changed one broken, overpowered ability. You left a whole bunch of others, and there was a whole bunch of underpowered abilities, which you were just as likely to get, that you didn't change, you know. And I'm talking about your sort of spells that function basically like a Marine Bolt Gun, your Strength 4, AP 5, D6 hits sort of abilities that are just terrible, that no one wants, no one ever uses. Okay, they're competing with your plus 3 attacks, your plus 3 strength and toughness, your plus 3 initiative, which are all spells that Biomancy gives you. Being Iron Arm and Warp Speed. How the hell are they supposed to compete against one another? And if you're playing, say, Thousand Suns and you're running Magnus, it's a no-brainer. You know, me personally, I always try and play fluffy. Anyone who's ever played me will say, hey, you know what, Macca never took invisibility on his troops. And I wouldn't spam Warp Speed and things like that, unless I maybe played Custodes, then I'd maybe put it on my Praetor, because I expect him to go toe-to-toe with the Custodes. That's about it. So I self-regulated. And the problem is most people are not going to self-regulate when they run Magnus. Nobody wants their awesome Primarch that they paid 500 points for to die when they put him on the table. They want him to earn his 500 points back. And believe it or not, Primarchs actually struggle to earn their points back, because they simply can't get to enough units fast enough unless you're dumb enough to feed them to them. because they're basically just infantry, and it's pretty easy to kill them. I know, saying Primarch's easy to kill sounds crazy, but it's true. So it would have been great to see them balance more of the psychic powers. But I digress. Back to Magnus. So you've got this standard psychic Primarch stat line. He's got the It Will Not Die, Independent Warrior, Eternal Warrior, Independent Character, Eternal Warrior, Fear, Adamantine Will. Good luck casting against him, by the way. I think no one in the game has a better psychic level, so he'll deny everything on like a 2 or 3 plus. It's, yeah, good. Don't bother. Fleet, Fearless, yeah, It Will Not Die. Master of Legion, Precision Shots, Precision Strikes. So essentially, he can join squads. His squads cause fear. His squads have ridiculous chance to ignore psychic powers cast against them. They're never going to run away. He's going to regenerate wounds. He can take a Rite of War, which means something like Guard of the Crimson King. Precision Shots and Precision Strikes, so on 6s to hit he can delegate the wounds from his attacks in close combat or from his ranged shooting. Yeah, you expect that. Sire of the Thousand Suns, comes with its own rules. Arch Sorcerer, Eye of the Crimson King, Phantasmal Aura, and very bulky because he's huge. Sire of the Thousand Suns, just like all these other ones like Sire of the World Eaters, that sort of thing, it's a passive set of buffs that you give your army, such as re-rolling pinning checks, leadership checks, reserve rolls, that sort of stuff. Arch Sorcerer always casts on a 3+, has a mastery level of 5, and when he actually perils, he gets any result of a 1, he gets to reroll. So, yeah, he's really good psyker. His armor, 2+ normal save, 4+ invulnerable save, which is equal to or better than many Primarchs. You know, Korax, for example, 2+ save, 5+ invul. Angron, 3+ save, 4+ invul. Primarchs like the Khan, whose rules haven't been fully released yet, but we know what they are. And Fulgrim, well, they're 5+ involves as well until they get into close combat, and then it goes up to a 3+, because you're not going to beat them in a fist fight, it's the theory. His melee weapon, the Blade of Nunantra. I think that's taken from the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser. +2 strength, so he's a strength 9. AP 1, it's a melee weapon, it's force, and it's 2-handed. But he's got 4 attacks anyway, so. His pistol is a 15-inch ranged melter, essentially, with D3 shots. It's assault, and it has Soul Blaze, which is, many people remember the other day I said fear, or causing fear is one of the worst possible special rules you can get, and it's highly, highly overvalued and overpriced by Games Workshop in general. Yeah, Soul Blaze is the second in my holy trinity of terrible rules. The third can wait for another time. The Eye of the Crimson King, essentially when he can target anyone on the board with any power. He doesn't have to see them, it can be completely blocked. As long as he has range to it, he can just cast. It's good. It's not broken because there's not actually that many abilities where this really comes into play. The only place it would be really broken is if you're playing Zone Mortalis, and if you have a Primarch in a Zone Mortalis, that is a huge Zone Mortalis game. And his Phantasmal Aura, enemy attacks directed at him or any infantry unit he has joined suffer a -1 penalty to hit to a maximum of 6+, and barrage weapons directed at him and any unit he joins add +1 to the scatter distance. Strong, not as strong as Leman Russ's rules used to be, but he got downgraded as well in the last FAQ. So, as I said, with the change for plus, I think it's 75 points, 175 points, slight difference, he can take the unrestrained might of the Crimson King. So this is Magnus fully supercharged, and you're talking, 500 and 600, 670 points? Yeah. Expensive, but fair. Infernal Bargain. Once per game, if Magnus is in play, he may choose to cancel the results of a single Perils of the Warp anywhere on the table. That's handy. Handy for a Thousand Suns player because they kind of fucked the Thousand Suns rules. We used to have 3+ casting. And the consequence was, yes, you have Arcane Litanies to ignore the first Perils you roll, but otherwise, any Perils you cast, if it wounds your Psyker in any way, it's really bad for your army. Like pinning checks, all sorts of stuff that no other Legion has to put up with. But the bonus was, hey, you cast on a 3+. Well, they kind of left, when they replaced the line with you must take from a certain cult, they got rid of the 3+ casting part. So now you have all the penalties that you would have had, but none of the benefits, if that makes sense. So you cast on a 4+, and if you perils, stiff shit, which makes Thousand Suns worse psychers than most legions, especially Wordbearers. Wordbearers are a much better psychic force for 30k, especially if they're running their Rite of War, which essentially fucks over psychers, which means your Thousand Suns are basically going to peril on any roll of a double, which makes it very dangerous to play as Thousand Suns. You do not want to be going up against that. I think it's Tainted Ground or something like that, the Rite of War. Yeah. Anyway. With Magnus on the board, he can mitigate one of those perils. Yeah, it's not a huge thing, but as a Thousand Suns player, it's important, because that psychic backlash going out through your army and your unit shutting down is not something you want. And of course, his Mind Wrath. The way it works now is, when he manifests any Wishfire power, you can declare that using Mind Wrath, you add 2 dice to, well, you add 2 to the Warp Charge cost. So if you needed to roll 1d6 getting a 4+, you now need to roll 3d6 getting a 4+, bare minimum. If it was a 2 Warp Charge power, it becomes a 4 Warp Charge power. So obviously you've got to throw a lot of dice at it. However, if you do this, the power adds plus d6 to any strength value to a maximum of 10, so it lost its D. It basically could become a D weapon before the minute you hit strength 10. And it doubles the listed range. I think this is perfectly fine. It's still quite strong. There are very few powers that have low AP. We're talking like your AP2s. So, something like Smite, for those who are used to the 30k Smite, yeah, this would benefit from it, or especially Nova abilities where he hits every enemy within range. You're talking like 24 inches on a lot of these Novas. Yeah, that can do a lot of damage. People will get their normal armor saves, your 2+, your 3+, but any wounds that go through are going to do a lot of damage. So, it's not bad. I don't think in any way that this is unbalanced. When you're paying 670 points now, it's pretty fair. Alright, I've droned on enough about Magnus. Let's go down to the other important changes. Right down to playtest rules errata. So they've changed up how the quad mortars work, with your frag shell, shatter shell, incendiary shell, splinter shell, phosphex, canister shot. They all were pretty tasty, nothing overpowered there at all. Good to see that they've actually done something about the quad mortars. Perhaps picking phosphex is not always the best choice anymore, because you're only getting one shot, large blast. Alright, Legion Moritat. This is one I complained about for a long time, and that was when they nerfed it originally, because in theory you could, as long as you keep rolling 2+, you could just keep hitting, and a lot of people were taking 2 plasma pistol Moritats. And the Moritat would come down, and as long as you kept rolling those 2s to hit, he would keep firing those plasma pistols. Some people made out that it was really strong and really overpowered. I don't think it ever really was. Yes, it could fuck up a Terminator squad, and maybe if you got into like the rear armor of a vehicle, you know, if it was a weaker vehicle like a Predator, something like that, yeah, you could really mess its day up. But that's about it. You know, bad placement of the Moritat, something like that, and essentially it's just a toughness 4 guy with 2 wounds. Not exactly the toughest guy in the world to kill, sort of a one-hit wonder, and many times he just failed. He rolls a 1 on that first dice to hit. Well, they nerfed the Moritat by making it that you can only ever hit a maximum of 6 shots per weapon. And then they double nerfed it by saying any rolls of a 1 or a 2 to hit overheated the weapon. Well, common sense has kicked in and they've gone, geez, that's a lot of negatives. So how's about this? You can just roll up to 6 to hits with each weapon. If you make a chainfire attack, such as this, you don't get to charge in the following assault phase. That's important, especially if he's hanging out with destroyers. And when making a chainfire attack weapons with the Gets Hot or Melter special rules, you have to roll each hit individually. And if a roll is over 1 is made, stop rolling to hit for that weapon immediately. No further to hit rolls may be made with that weapon for the remainder of the phase. Cool. It's just common sense stuff. And it's great to see that they've taken community feedback on board. Alright, Legion Herald. Under the special rules, add the following. Fearless. Not super important because they generally hang around with banners, which give them fearless, but sure. Implacable Advance. That means he's scoring. That's a scoring HQ. That kind of makes him a bit more worth it. On top of that, he can also take Terminator armor now, which is a fantastic option for Legion Heralds. And that means he can also take because he has the Master of the Legion rule, a Terminator command squad. Juicy options, juicy options. Alright, Legion Praevian Consul. Here's a funny one. Overall, these are great. They've narrowed it down what each Legion's tactics does. Unfortunately, the Iron Hands, their battle automata may take Blessed Auto Simulacra at no additional cost. They do not benefit from the Legiones Astartes rule possessed by the Praevian. So no more equivalent toughness 8 Iron Hands Castellax. That's a damn shame. It wasn't broken. It could be rough to play against, but it wasn't broken. And it's a shame to see them lose that. Instead, they basically gained you may get some wounds back. Yeah. The one that's truly terrible out of all of this, it would have to be the Night Lords one. Not because it is terrible by default, but because you can upgrade them for Trophies of Judgment, where you may gain fear, but you're a monstrous creature, so you already cause fucking fear. So why would I pay 10 points per model for that? If I have a 5 model squad of Castellax, I just paid 50 points for something they already possess. I think not. Go back and rewrite that one. Otherwise, yeah, really good across the board. Pretty fluffy. I do miss my Raven Guard infiltrating ones. That was pretty funny, but you can still outflank them. If you don't take them as Raven Guard, you can take other special rules on Praevian Automata. I pick Outflank pretty often, because it's really good to bring on a unit of Vorax through Outflank. Hilarious to watch the other guy deal with it. Legion Destroyers, another one that got much needed love, and basically the thing I've been saying they should do for ages, which was dramatically drop the points, cheapen up jump packs too, and I think I did say to 5 points per model, exactly what they did. Dropped them down to 115 points for the squad, and plus 15 points per model, and plus 5 points each for jump packs. So what kind of a difference does this make? Well, originally a Legion Destroyer squad with 5 extra destroyers with jump packs with 2 rad missile launchers used to cost 500 points nearly. It was 495 points off the top of my head. Now we're talking about 300 odd points. Yeah, that's a huge difference. About 300 points fully upgraded is massive. And they have hardened armor. Now, I had to double check this, but I'm pretty certain they didn't have hardened armor in the past. In fact, I'm going to go and check that later, just for my own curiosity. But that makes them pretty damn tough. If you drop destroyers down on someone, deep strike them with their jump packs, they're going to take those flamers and laugh at them. So, yeah, really strong. And in the right legion, something like, say, salamanders or iron hands especially, they're going to be tough to crack. Because that -1 strength to the weapons hitting them, and the re-rolling failed armor saves against templates, yeah, strong. So, fantastic changes. I mean, these are test changes. They're not official, so it's up to, if you go to an event, it's up to the TO if they allow this or not. Let's get that straight. But, I mean, I'm loving it so far. Another one that they changed up is the Palatine Blades. Points drop dramatically. From what I can tell, fantastic. Still a bit disappointing they didn't give them all Artificer Armor, but otherwise, solid all round. They're one of the squads that has really suffered from the power creep of the Heresy. I mean, you compare what Palatine Blades from Book 1 of the Horus Heresy cost in points compared to them to, say, the Invictus Suzerain, which are the Ultramarine Special Unit, and holy fuck, you'll just cry pink tears. So, yeah, great changes there. The Emperor's Children as a whole need their Legion looked at a little bit, so good to see. And Phalanx Warders, another one that I would warn people away from and say, hey, nice looking models, I guess, but avoid. They're terrible. Yeah, Phalanx Warders. They're good now. So, with their shield wall, hardened armor, the boarding shields, so, the fact that they've got counterattack, you charge them, you lose your bonuses because of the boarding shields giving them defensive grenades, the counterattack, all this sort of stuff, the fact they're going to hit you with +1 weapon skill, all of a sudden, they've actually become really viable. Now, they had these special rules before, a lot of them, but they were very points intensive. They were not +12 points each, they were in the realm of +20 points each. And they were craptacular, and I can't remember ever having seen anyone ever play Phalanx Warders. I have a lot of friends who play Imperial Fists, and quite a few of them turned around and said, hey, I might actually take this unit now. That's a really good sign that you're getting something right with your FAQs, in my opinion. So, fantastic to see. And lastly, Medusan Immortals. Same thing, points drops. So, great. Oh, and Ashen Circle, sorry. And same thing again, points drops. So they're starting to balance out these sort of older units with the newer, more powerful units that have been released in sort of from Book 4 onwards. Because these are all models that came out from Book 3 and back in time. Book 1 for the Palatine Blades, Book 2 for the Medusan Immortals, Book 3 for Phalanx Warders, Book 2 for the Ashen Circle, and yeah, compare them to what came in Book 5. Again, Invictus Suzerain, they're the one I go to because they're the standard. They're the standard of elite infantry units in the Horus Heresy. They're finally catching up to them, and it's great to see. So, anyway, I've droned on enough. My question to you, my audience, is what would you like to ask me? I'd like to open it up to another AMA. Ask me anything. You want to talk about my interests in life, the music I listen to, favourite movies, hobby-related stuff as well. What hobby I enjoy, what am I working on at the moment, maybe theoretical matchups like this tank versus this tank, what would win for what reason. It doesn't have to be hobby-related, it could be real life. Do you think the Leopard 2 or a Challenger 2 would win in a fight? Personally, I'm biased and I think it's the Challenger 2. But anyway, these are sort of questions you're more than welcome to pose me. I'm a big fan of naval history and of aviation in general, funny enough, and I love space as well. Favourite space probe, for the record, Voyager. So, also, probably my most disliked Star Trek series is Voyager. Funny that. Star Trek Discovery, of course, is not a part of the official Star Trek canon. I can explain why another time, but it's actually realistically not. It's not something that many people would know, but it's not actually officially canon. I'll leave you with that. Anyway, ask me anything and I will get back to you in my next episode. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.